Hey folks, it's Sam going live here today on December 16th, Wednesday, December 16th, here in beautiful San Diego. I'm feeling good, feeling hopeful. I'm having a great hair day. Hair is soft and supple. Kidding. Um, we're have some great things ahead, and I'm going to be talking about the some post eclipse shifts that are happening that are going to be taking us into 2021. And by the way, I want people to know, if you haven't done it yet, to please register for the free 2021 forecast. Be prepared for 2021. I just put the link in the in the in the chat box. It's very easy link. It's a very easy website to remember. You just go to 2021vedicastrology.com and you go to this page. And again, it's free. And I talk about the 10 shifts that you must know. And it's on the other end of this eclipse that we just went through. We also have a big alignment next week. I'll talk about it again, the Jupiter-Saturn conjunction. But again, last year's forecast I did was very accurate. The same one that I did in 2020. The whole first part of the forecast, about, I think, 6 or 7 of the 10 most important shifts happened before, like, the summer. Most of them, about 5 or 6 of them, happened early in the year. So it totally showed all the intensity and the drive and the determination and the stress and difficulty of COVID and all that. These things are real. We could see what's coming. And this is one of the best ways to understand astrology and to use it in your life. And again, to also get an objective take on these things. I'm not a gloom and doom astrologer. I think many astrologers are way too gloom and doom about things. I talk about things with the right measure, like I'm going to do today. At least I think I do. And that's what I do. I put 2021 in perspective. And again, I also start with the idea that it's going to be better than we think, especially, based on where we are right now. I'm going to talk about some of those things today. But I want you to really be prepared because, again, there's a lot of intense shifts that are coming up. And in addition to watching and being able to get these 10 shifts and learning how these things work in general for the upcoming year, there's also the opportunity to get the 2021 forecast for your sign, or all 12 signs as well. I'll talk about that a little bit later. But today, again, I'm really going to be talking about what's happening on the other end of this eclipse that we just went through. I want to start actually. I actually want to start with a screenshot that I just saw recently, that I saw circulating on social media. And it really kind of shows where we are right now and somewhat of where we're going. And again, I try to see these things in a sort of neutral way. But of course, I have my views. We're seeing this reemergence of COVID again, not just in the U.S., but around the world and whatnot. And we have vaccines that are being deployed now. And again, it's happening within the context of some people are really paranoid about what it could mean, what the whole thing is, whether it's real or it was a hoax or it was designed to control us, or what the whole thing is about. And I see this. By the way, my view about the pandemic, first of all, is that we're all going to get through it. And even about wearing masks and all of this, I've never been someone who shames people for wearing a mask or not wearing a mask or anything like that. I have always hoped that people will just see it as a simple precaution. It's not this, fearful, oh my God, I'm afraid my whole life is going to end, so I'm wearing a mask and I'm ready to just listen to any spoon-fed explanation or whatever, how it's portrayed by those who are against it. But this really summed up something that I saw, and again, it's just quite sad right now to be seeing this kind of strange division where we're sort of talking past each other. And again, you see on one end someone who is shaming a person for not wearing a mask. You're not wearing a mask. puts myself and my family at risk, right? So again, I've seen this posted by mainly people who are anti, you know, mask and vaccine, and that the COVID is a hoax and we're being manipulated. It's all part of the Great Reset to, you know, manipulate us all, and it's, you know, this dystopian event. And again, by the way, I've been out many times. I've seen people with or without masks. I've not seen personally anyone yelled at or shamed for not wearing a mask. I see stores that don't let people in because they want to protect their employees, which, by the way, that's the reason I do it. It's a very simple thing to do, very simple sacrifice. You know, I'm not terrified or scared to death that I'm going to be microchipped or whatever. To me, it's not, I'm not scared or terrified of any of it, actually. And frankly, I don't really know anyone who is. At least people that are just wearing masks and going about their business. The ones that seem paranoid and terrified are the ones who are being represented by this other response, which is your obedience to elite pedophiles, criminal government, pharma, cartel, corrupt media, and dark agenda puts myself and my family at risk. So again, there's this is an extreme way that it's being stated, but it really shows a kind of real dichotomy and a real split that's going on right now. And I just brought it up because, you know, it shows a kind of, you know, a real kind of polarity that's going on right now where, you know, creating enemy images out of the other people. And I'm not just saying that the people who are afraid and worried about, you know, government overreach and great resets and the fact that those in power use situations like this to grab more control for themselves. Yes, that happens. Absolutely. And it's happened here. But again, there's a whole kind of thing that's, you know, I know that's real. Of course I know it's real. But to go that far with it, again, and to be utterly kind of like in a state of paranoia about that is, again, creating this split. Then you have people on the other side, which is most people, who are like, okay, this is, you know, the pandemic is real. It's not a hoax. It's been handled very well by many countries, especially Asian countries, who haven't been under these intense lockdowns with their economies wrecked like we have been, especially in the US, which has handled it the worst, the death rates worse than any other country. And so we're in this like false battle right now going on between this idea that they're trying to shut down the government and trying to do all of this stuff as part of the issue, but not acknowledging that part of the reason why the governments are shut down and all this stuff is because we never did the things that those countries did who got it under control. Like there's no big resurgence in South Korea or Taiwan or New Zealand or other countries where they got it under control, and now the vaccines will be able to, you know, help. So again, I am taking a stand and not taking a stand, just in saying that, as far as I'm concerned about it, I've never been so personally, like, vehemently attacking people who have the other view. But looking at it objectively, it's really kind of easy to see that there are measures that have knocked this back. Now, if people want to believe and you know, believe that it was engineered in China to do all of this other stuff, and then it turns into this whole thing, then we're bringing up, and we're in a world like I just explained, where rather than getting these things under control so that we can reopen the economies and redo all of these things, we're stuck in this battle which keeps us not, you know, not addressing the problem and resolving it, at least for right now. Anyway, but we're on the other side of this eclipse. Like I said, the eclipse happened, and I'm talking about this up front because I see it as a very sort of visceral, you know, explanation about where we've come and then where we're going. Because again, right now at the end of this eclipse, on the other side of it, where we're going is a place that's more hopeful. And again, I talk about that in the 2021 forecast. But right now, we're still in this place. It was a solar eclipse in Scorpio with these other planets. Again, Sun and Moon in Jyeshta Nakshatra. Again, Jyeshta is ruled by Lord Indra, who is the king of the gods. It relates to things like governments and those who are a king or want to be a king, holding on to power, fighting for power. It also includes things like, ways and strategies through which we do that. Brute force, attempts to hold on to power through military coups or legislative coups. Again, we're seeing also in the U.S. there's still this idea that the election is somehow not resolved. It is resolved. Joe Biden won, and he's going to be president in 2021. I get that it's a similar kind of dichotomy, almost unreality as far as I'm concerned, that and almost maybe even the same kind of percentage and maybe even the same people that somehow, no, it's not going to happen. And they're almost cheering for this idea because there's this idea that Trump and whatnot is the one who's going to save us from the elite pedophile, dystopia that we're heading toward. And, buying into so much of these alternate realities that they think is going to happen, like, now once the Electoral College met, like it did on Monday, I think it was Monday or Tuesday. It was Tuesday. Or was it Monday? I don't remember. Once they met, it's decided. Again, there have been no court challenges. Trump has had every opportunity. His cases keep getting thrown out because there's no merit to them. They're not even listening to the court cases because there's no standing on any of them. It's going to court and saying, we think that the election we just validated is now unconstitutional. This is basically some version of that in all of those lower state courts, in the district courts. You would have people go into Pennsylvania court and say, we think it was unconstitutional mail-in ballots. And the judge would throw it out because he says, but the legislators decided in advance to do it this way. You can't come in after the fact and try to throw out the results because you didn't like it. No, and they don't even hear the case. They throw them out. They threw out like 50 cases, including the Kraken and the this and the that and the whole big to-do around all of this. By the way, go back and listen, and those who watch my videos know I've said this from day one, and people hate it. Do you know how much hate mail I get for just saying the truth? Saying the truth that we don't live in an alternate reality? Just because Donald Trump and all these lawyers go out and say it? We still have laws, and I know how they work. I know how elections work. And I'm sorry that I've been saying the truth. Really, I'm sorry if it's bothered you so much. But I said after we saw what happened that it wasn't going to get overturned. We weren't going to find this widespread voter fraud to overturn tens of thousands of votes in 3 or 4 states, because I know how it works. We have courts. So anyway, the alternate reality and the secret disclosures that I've heard a lot of astrologers talk about, and many of the astrologers, not just astrologers, but people in general who listen to that or who have been playing into this alternate view of what the Scorpio eclipse is going to bring out. The Scorpio eclipse. You'll see, here it comes. The big secrets are going to come out. The secrets of the deep state Dominion voting system, the Kraken, the this, you'll see. And wait till the eclipse, it's going to come out. Then you'll see all the secrets. Here it is. None of it happened. None of it happened. It doesn't mean that the secrets didn't come out, because the secrets that have been exposed are the things I'm talking about right now. The shocking disclosures that we've seen, from my point of view, the shocking disclosures is how shocking it is. And we're seeing this now all pervasive, where how shocked we are that so many of our fellow citizens or people in the world are not are believing in things like this. It was shocking as we got near that eclipse. And what happened on that eclipse day, or actually right before the eclipse day, the end of last week, was the Supreme Court came and swatted down that last crazy attempt by Texas to sue 4 states and have the results thrown out in 4 states. A ridiculous maneuver. And it was signed on by 17 attorneys general of other states and 126 congressmen signed on to this completely bogus, they filed amicus briefs to support this totally bogus attempt to literally throw out the results of all these other states. Shocking to see that almost an entire political party is without, I don't know what the word is at this point, but certainly willing to be complicit in something that has no basis in reality. Frankly, first, it had no chance of succeeding. There was no way it could succeed. And even if it did, you really think that Texas should decide whether these other states can run their elections because you didn't like the results? Again, even thinking that there would ever be a chance, because then you could have California sue Texas, or anything could happen. But the point is that the shocking disclosure for me and many other people was how shocking it is that the democracy, especially in the U.S., I'm talking about U.S. democracy, is literally this fragile and this corruptible, literally mainly by one man and the people around him who just keep this story going, where there's no story. There hasn't been a story for a couple weeks, or literally, I shouldn't say a couple weeks, for about a month since after this came in. The propaganda about the media doesn't pick the president, the people do, and all of the stuff that's been going for a month. And I've been watching it the whole time and waiting to see astrologers and people who follow them, and also social media influencers, like where I saw that image, the people I've seen who have posted those kinds of images. It's also a lot of, you wait, Trump is coming, Sidney Powell, the Kraken, and continually after loss after loss after loss after loss. Even after the electors met. And resoundingly handed him the loss. I'm like, okay, now what are they going to say? And it's something new. Oh, that's just what we want. Going according to plan. Stay with the plan. Q dropped this. Now they don't even call him Q anymore. It's 17 because Q is the 17th letter. Oh, this drop is coming. Oh, he talked all about this. It's all going according to plan. Like failure after failure after failure. Wrong prediction after wrong prediction. Wrong timing. None of it working. And still, oh no, it's coming. It's coming. And it's shocking for others, for the rest of us to be like, what do you, and to realize it, like, what are you hoping for? Because the only things that are left now are like tanks rolling down the streets. Because again, there's no possibility to block the certification. You would need, what'll happen is there will be protest in the House and the Senate. They'll go back and then they'll come back and vote, and it won't happen. We know what the procedure is at this point. And especially shocking because we can also see how all of this is done as a kind of a fundraising thing. It's fundraising. Trump has raised $200 million while all this was going on, keeping the lawsuits going, raising all this money, like never questioning any of this. It's a grift, a total grift. And it's just kind of, I don't really know what to how to say this, but it's just like, and again, it's just the shocking reality of just watching, like how shocking and gullible and misguided all of this is. Now, the good news is, again, I don't plan this to just be this kind of, I understand these things are polarizing, and there are people who disagree and don't like me saying this stuff. And again, I will also say right now, if I'm wrong and somehow something comes out, like I've said the whole time, I will come out and say it. I'll say, I was wrong, boy. You guys were right. Never saw that coming. But again, this was the big thing. Trump himself said, this is the big one. The Supreme Court, right? The whole time they were losing all those court cases, they were like, well, this has been the plan the whole time. Lose in all these district courts and get it to the Supreme Court. Well, last week, Supreme Court could barely stomach it. One line, no. Dismissed. No, no. There was a little bit of dissent on procedure. Still, no. Still, hope springs eternal. This next thing is going to happen. This fantasy unreality is going to do it. You'll see. We'll see the liberal tears then. All right. So again, if it does happen, I'll be the first to say, okay, I got it wrong. But this is the shocking, again, I want people to see, because what's been said the whole time, at least by a lot of people who I'm talking a lot about the election prediction because I've been watching it, and we've all been kind of on tenterhooks a little bit, like, when is this going to be resolved? Like I've said it, again, the week after that it's resolved. It's done. It's done. Now, again, it got scary because Trump tried to corrupt all the electors. He tried to do all of this stuff because he had no legal challenge. None of the legal cases, there's no legal basis for it. So, we don't have a legal basis. What about an illegal basis? Trump is like, fine. Who cares if it's legal or not? Break the law on my behalf and appoint your own electors. And again, so now that's the thing now. Even after the real electors are appointed, they, in this alternate universe, also appointed alternate electors, which is just pointless. It's not going to go anywhere. But anyway, so I'm talking about the shocking disclosures part because this has been what's been said. This timing of you wait for this eclipse, now it's going to change everything. And we saw it set up. It was set up. It was totally set up. The Kraken came. Again, if all of that would have been real and all of that would have been legitimate, that was the best chance. The Kraken, the Supreme Court, here was the plan. Here it comes. Amy Coney Barrett, she's going to appoint Donald Trump president in this alternate reality. Because, of course, that's the way the court works. Amy Coney Barrett is now going to do it all and just throw out votes and appoint him president or something. But that was the time. That was the timing, and you saw what happened. No. Again, I don't know how many astrologers predicted this eclipse. Oh, he's strong near eclipses. He was born near an eclipse, so this is when it's going to happen. It didn't happen. Okay? Not just keep saying I was right, but I said it from the beginning. There is no way this looks like a win for him. And I said from the beginning, this eclipse on his debilitated moon, 12th Lord debilitated, is just going to be kaboom, man. That's going to be like the final pile driver. It made perfect sense. That's the day that the electors meet. That's not the day that some big phantasmagorical thing comes and anoints him. Not this transit, no way. And it didn't. And what was said, though, is that these shocking disclosures are going to come out. You're going to see all the secrets exposed, and that's not what happened. Instead, the secrets that have been exposed are the ones I'm talking about. At least from my point of view. It's just shocking. Again, to wake up and in America, or in this sense, that almost half of one party are almost exclusively in thrall to stuff that is utterly outlandish with no chance, simply to curry favor with Trump. So this is the shocking, big part of the Scorpio eclipse that is really changing one part of reality. And I'm talking about this part because we see it, but also, again, we also see the polarizing around the COVID reality. That's the other big issue that's going on right now, right? Is this whole kind of polarized, where most people, and again, I would bet that the percentages run pretty much about the same. Maybe 60, 40, 65, 35, maybe even less. But we're going to see these things start to get less extreme. We're at a point of a huge extreme right now. That's what this eclipse did. It really showed all of this underbelly, this Scorpio hidden underbelly, this shocking kind of potential danger there. And as we get further away from that and into next year, like I said, as I described that I talk about in the 2021 forecast, as the sun starts to get further away from this eclipse, again, and he starts to, move through, by the time we get into April and whatnot, we have Jupiter moving into, Aquarius, so he's not, debilitated anymore. But even now with this Jupiter-Saturn, we see what has happened with Jupiter-Saturn. By the way, I just want to keep going back. Because I've been watching to see these things the whole time, but the astrologers that I saw who would predict Trump would win or that he would come back, you wait, especially Vedic astrologers, and what they were basically saying is when Jupiter goes into Capricorn, it's going to be strong for Trump. That was a shift. I said, no, it's not. Again, I have videos on this. I said, no, it's not. It's not going to be strong at all. It's going to be strong for Biden because Biden has his exalted Jupiter there, or his exalted Jupiter opposite. But Jupiter going into Capricorn with Saturn, what it shows is it's showing what we're dealing with now, which is, again, very similar to what we dealt with COVID last year when Saturn went into Capricorn and then Jupiter and Mars joined. And that's getting through it. We're having to remain hopeful, but we're remaining hopeful now within these vaccinations coming into the world. We have to be careful. We have to be cautious because these are experimental. And by the way, you might be surprised. I'm giving these versions, but I have enormous suspicions about vaccinations. I don't think there should be mandatory vaccinations. I've been concerned about the mRNA vaccination because we haven't done this before, and we're not certain about what they do. And there's been a lot of hyperbole, especially around the idea that they rewrite DNA and all. They don't do that, but we're not sure how they're interacting. Again, I stay in my lane. I'm not a biochemist and a vaccination scientist, so I don't know. Funny how so many other people who 6 months ago didn't know anything about it are now absolute experts. Put that aside for now, but I'm concerned about all of this stuff. These are not simple. I'm not trying to gloss over any suspicions that people have. Like I said, even before with the graphic I showed where people are talking about, being worried about globalist cabals making a power grab in the time of crisis. Absolutely, that's happened. The corruption in the U.S. has been horrible. One of the reasons why the economy's gotten wrecked is because of our leaders. It shouldn't have been like this. But of course, the support packages weren't enough. They weren't consistent. Here in the U.S., we're still trying to get some kind of relief. Again, this has made the situation so much more urgent than they needed to be, especially because of the fact that we also won't follow the guidelines that we know work. And we know they work because we've seen it. We have evidence. Look at South Korea, Taiwan, Asian countries, where they're used to wearing masks. Now, they're used to wearing masks because of pollution and whatnot, but still, it wasn't this whole conspiracy to take away their rights to ask them to wear masks. So it's a combination, and of course, not the least of which is that we had a president who undermined it the whole time and gave license to turning it into a political issue. So again, we're at this point now where we're coming out of we've hit like kind of one of the most polarizing moment. Think of how polarizing and how potentially explosive it was like last week when these cases were coming before the court as we were getting closer to that eclipse, right? And again, the verdicts came, it untangled and it resolved. Again, the same thing what happened last week with the vaccines. On Eclipse Day on December 14th, we had the Electoral College meet, and we started getting vaccines at the same time, the same day, that Eclipse Day. Pretty remarkable. That was the first day that in the U.S. there started to be vaccines, and it was the day that the Electoral College met and brought the pile driver down on the reality of Trump's possible win, short of something so unconstitutional that it would be criminal, and he better watch it. Because there are seditious possibilities. If someone says, hey, how about we roll tanks and surround the White House? That could get him in that's literally treason. That's a crime against the state. That's not even debatable. So at any rate, but we're moving away from that now, and things are going to calm down as we move into next year. And these hotly contested issues, I think, are going to start to get less and less hot as people will accept the truth of what happened in this election, because eventually Trump will be gone. He'll be a crank on Twitter, probably. There's even talk that he might get banned, which, again, there's this whole thing about censorship and whatnot these days, but Twitter bans people all the time for hate speech and inciting violence and stuff. Aside from that part of it, at some point, even though there might be Republicans, he'll still have influence. He'll get further and further away from that being the dominant narrative. Just look at where we are now after 4 years of Trump's administration and where we were 4 years ago. We were nowhere near as much in a conspiratorial, fact-free, who knows what's real zone at that time. 4 years is a long time. You can do a lot. And look at how after 4 years of this constant hammering on fake news, press is enemy of the people, blah, blah, blah. Look at how it's scrambled things so much. 4 years from now, 4 years from that will be much different. Slowly, but not that slowly, because I think, and it seems like most people are ready to just, not just have normalcy, but have competence. And there's much room and reason to expect that with the transits next year. Right now, like I said, we're in this time for the next few months of Jupiter and Saturn going through Capricorn. You see this is into February. So we're going to be getting through this stressful time. And again, not just in the US, but in the world as well. There's uprisings. There's all kinds of stress and worry and paranoia about many things. Like in Britain, you still have a lot of Brexit issues going on. Europe, dealing with COVID again. We're dealing with the fears and stresses around the Great Reset and these globalists deciding our fates or whatever it might be. These are all real concerns. But one of the biggest problems that we've dealt with in the last several years is this whole fact-free conspiracy world where it seems like nothing could ever be understood or ever be figured out. The thing that's confusing and strange and frustrating is even in online discussions, people, it's like, well, if I believe it, it's true. And if I believe something that is true, even if it's not true and factual, you have to respect my fact-free world or else you're just being rude. And, well, who knows what's going on? Because God knows, anything could be factual. That's just, again, this is the world we're in now. We weren't anywhere near this 4 years ago. Now that's just sort of common. So, again, the other thing is it's up to us all to speak about these things honestly and truthfully. Again, even like when we have discussions about COVID and what we could possibly do. God, who knows? Who knows what we could possibly do? It might be a conspiracy. It might have been created in China. It might be globalists, masks. Who knows? God, who can figure anything out? Well, we can figure it out. We have 10 examples of what they did and how they got it under control, and it didn't wreck their economy, destroy their economy. They're not all shut down again now. We know what would work, and we could start doing it right now. And then in a couple months, bring things back again. We never did it in the U.S. In the U.S., we never did it. We never got the numbers down. We were always in this liminal space because of a president who turned it into a political issue, so we never calmed down. We never got it under control. Even Europe did throughout last summer, and they flattened the curve. And then when it respiked again in winter, now they're dealing with these things again, and there's a lot of fatigue around doing this. All that's real. All that's natural. What's not real and natural is saying, well, God, who knows what could ever possibly happen? So my opinion that is not based on any fact, it's just based on a lot of conspiratorial thinking, is just as legitimate as what we've seen work. It's all the same. Can't figure out what's real anymore. That's not true. And this, to me, has been the biggest, the most damaging and difficult part of where we've been, and seeing it now play out so polarized around this eclipse. And going forward, again, we're still in the throes of a lot of the intensity because we're still very close to that eclipse. But in a couple months, as we get into 2021, we're going to get further and further away from this drama around it. And again, even in the U.S. with the new like in the U.S., just having someone who is not this conspiracy theorist and propagandist who just has no interest in fact, he just has interest in whatever is better for him at any given moment, getting further away from that as the central figure and the leader in the country will be nothing but beneficial to that goal as well. So again, I just want to also, again, just say that if you are interested in learning and seeing what 2021 has in store, let me put this link here again if you're just sort of joining me. I have this this free web class. If you haven't seen it before, very easy. You can go, and the theme of it is finding light in the darkness, because again, there's going to be some intensity. Obviously, we're still in the midst of, especially there could be some financial stresses that we're working through, other kinds of things. But again, by the spring and into the summer, things are going to get better. We'll start getting through this. I'm also going to be talking about on this web class the transits of Jupiter through Capricorn and Aquarius, because Jupiter next year is going to go back and forth between Capricorn and Aquarius, and it's going to really highlight two houses and a real sort of evolutionary lesson for you in 2021, based on your sign. So, for example, if you're a Leo, Jupiter is going through the 6th and the 7th house next year. So, what does that mean? If you're Aquarius, Jupiter is going through your 12th and your 1st house next year. So, what does that mean? Very important. So, on this web class, I'm going to be focusing on that. And then, of course, I'm going to be hitting the eclipses. So, again, first we start January 12th. So, it's right around the corner. The first of the 10 things I talk about is this new moon in Sagittarius, Uttarashada, at the beginning of the year. This is really like the actual new year for me. And to the ancient Indians, because to the ancient Indians in the Rig Veda and the Yajur Veda, the first day of the year was the new moon after the winter solstice. That's when we should have the beginning of the year. It should be the new moon after the winter solstice. And so I analyze that first, again, and then I talk about this time to concentrate. February 4th to February 12th, we have all the planets except Mars in Capricorn, including the moon, for 2.5 days. A big pileup of planets there in Capricorn. Again, a big time to concentrate. Love and romance, exalted Venus, social inspiration and hope, Jupiter in Sagittarius. Again, April 5th to September 14th. Then he goes retrograde, then goes back in. But, by April 5th, Jupiter's no longer in its debilitated sign, right? And again, Aquarius is much more about sharing the world and about higher causes, showing up in greater service to each other and to the world. Again, this is going to be great. It's a big shift, and we need to be ready for it. Much more about social responsibility and healing, social healing. Again, then we have 3 really powerful Mercury retrograde, actually 3, but I highlight 2 powerful Mercury retrograde cycles next year, in Taurus and Gemini, and then another one in Virgo and Libra. So I Mercury's in really powerful signs for most of next year. 6 to 8 months of the year, he's in either Earth or air signs. So that's great for Mercury and comprehending our life on Earth and what we're doing here, trying to really understand things. Total eclipse of stability. We have this eclipse in Taurus, June 10th, Mrigashira Nakshatra. Then Jupiter turns retrograde, June 20th to October 17th. Again, then the Mercury retrograde. Then a total eclipse of the heart. We talk about the Scorpio eclipse that's happening next December. Again, very powerful. And then at the end of the year, we have Mars and Ketu both in Scorpio, and from December 4th until January 2022. So again, it's free. You just go there, you click register, you can watch instant replay, or you can register in a couple days. Again, you could watch it right now. You could watch the instant replay, and you just need to give your email address, and you can get that. So it's and by the way, also, again, what I also then have is I take each of those 10 things that I just mentioned, all of these things, and I explain them for each of the 12 signs. Only $20, you can get your sign. Like if you're Cancer, it's going to be very different than if you're Libra. All of those 10 things are completely different. You just go, you click buy now, and you can get the one for your sign. And again, I'm getting them finished now. They'll be done by December 20th. But you can even get all 12 of them, because we have people that have different signs and we want to know. It's also a really good learning tool to hear me explain all of these different things from 12 different perspectives. So you could see how I do it. If you're a student, it's really good. It's not that expensive. So I try to make these things easy for people to get. And, you know, it's really great, the power of the internet, that we can leverage these things. I can leverage my time. I only need to do it once, and then everybody can get it. So I don't need to charge, you know, hundreds of dollars for these kinds of things, even though it's quite a bit of time and effort to do it. But anyway, so this is a lot of what I wanted to talk about, is that we've come through this really intense eclipse and all of these secrets being revealed. You've heard for months. You watch, the secrets are coming out. The secrets. Again, a lot of it we've seen with people thinking that, and a lot of people have been really paranoid around the election and stuff like that. I've seen more fear and stress and worry and unnecessary paranoia around this than anything I've seen in a long time. And by the way, I kind of get tired of saying it. Like, I know people listen to like 50 different astrologers, and that's fine, you know, but I've said this from the beginning, and I actually just get tired of people emailing me and going, oh, I heard someone say this, is this real? Except from the beginning, it was over. I know how this works. We have courts. I know how they work. Again, short of total unlawfulness, which, again, the unlawfulness, Trump tried it. It would have been totally unlawful for these electors to not honor their duty. By the way, I just want to also say, this was part of my prediction. I'm going to do a video soon where I just go through every part of the prediction that I made, because I predicted this, frankly, right on. I said it was going to be just like this. I even said most of the states. And one of the main things I said is it would be pretty quick, and it was, and it won't be close. It was over pretty quick. Just because we have someone having a tantrum doesn't mean it was ever close. It was over. And it wasn't close, which means it wasn't one state. It wasn't 2000, where people are like, well, 2000 took a month. Yeah, 2000 was one state and a few hundred votes. So again, because I know the difference, I was never, confused. But if it would have been one state, if it would have been close, which it wasn't, but if it would have been close, we might have had a very different result. If it would have just been one state, frankly, I guarantee you, if it would have just been one state, and all Trump needed to do was get one state to go against the Constitution of their state and break the law on his behalf, they would have done it. He would have found one of them. If it would have just been down to, let's say, Michigan or Pennsylvania or Georgia, he would have been able to get one group of electors to say, we're not going to ratify this. But I said, it's not going to be close. And it wasn't close. Okay? And so, again, it was clearly shown in the astrology. And it hasn't been close since. Again, just because you have these media events going on, this media circus, because that's all it is. A media circus and a fundraising grift. Let's keep saying this stuff in the media. Let's never say it in court. They've never alleged in court that there was voter fraud. Because in court, you can be sanctioned if you lie in court. If lawyers go to court and lie, they could be disbarred. So they never said any of that in court. Even Rudy Giuliani and whatever, they never said it. Media events and fundraising emails. They've sent more than 500 fundraising emails since the election. Oh, there's still hope. Send us money for the legal defense. And people don't catch on to this. Incredible. And because so many people don't even understand how the legal system works, and yes, it's complicated. I'm not trying to be insulting. Our election system is very complicated, but it's not that complicated. You can find out. There's experts everywhere explaining this. Every credible expert said almost none of this has any chance of winning, of succeeding. And they explain why, but people don't listen. Again, this is one of the biggest, to me, even part of the shocking disclosures that we need to acknowledge in the world right now, for me at least, is that, again, this complete fact-free world that we live in now, this anti-intellectualism, this fact-free world that we've been under now for 4 years. And that it's like, oh God, we can never figure out anything could happen at any time. It could, but we still have a legal system and courts, which are the last line here at this point. And the courts did their jobs. And most of them were Republican judges and whatnot. They were the hardest. So again, the thing is that these are the lessons that I think we need to learn. We need to see. We need to understand. And again, and I mean, I feel bad for the people that are so spun out on this paranoia right now, that they really think that the choice is between, Trump, who is going to save us from the deep state because of the conspiratorial Q and save us from the pedophile, baby eater stuff, and that's all tied together with masks and it's total paranoia. And by the way, these people also, again, so much projection. The people that say all this are always also saying, I'm not scared to go without a mask, and that everybody wearing a mask is somehow the real paranoid ones. When, again, it's a total projection, a total upside down, or that everybody's sheeple, okay? Like everybody who's wearing a mask and just kind of understand, okay, it's a pandemic, this is what we do, we see it working, this is what we need to do, are the paranoid sheeple, and the ones who are terrified that Joe Biden is a pedophile baby eater and that the virus is here to engineer us, they're not the paranoid sheeple. And again, they're all saying the same thing because Q said this, the last Q drop was this. So in unison, they repeat Q, they repeat what Trump says, they repeat all of this stuff. And we're the sheeple. It's like upside down world. Total projection, total polarization. And again, I'm not trying to be, it's hard to not speak of this without being just this way about it, because I feel sad that people I know, friends I know, people are following that or following these leaders that are putting all of that stuff into the bloodstream. It's just so toxic. And I'm saying that I think we're going to be coming back from that and not even considering the context that we're having this at the end of a 4-year presidency of someone who I said at the beginning, one of the biggest problems with him is we will have a president who is a conspiracy theorist who doesn't believe in truth or facts. And how dangerous that is to have someone who just blithely says, climate crisis was a hoax invented by the Chinese. All the stuff he said in the 2016 election, which is we should never let anyone who is this unscientific, this conspiratorial, this uninformed get anywhere near that much power. And that's just one part of it. Not to mention the vicious venality and grievance and constant bullying and endless attacking. Like almost every character flaw coming together in someone. Uninformed, uninterested, thin-skinned, self-absorbed, constantly attacking everyone with no facts or no moral compass around it. So we're at this point now after 4 years of that. So obviously, you could just even project forward 4 years from that. We'll have more of a perspective on that. And again, I know that, that people hate when I say these kinds of things, and they're, I'm sorry, but to most of us, it looks like that. And even this final, I even have to say, this final curtain call, this final act of his presidency, if it doesn't reveal this, I don't know what would. No facts, no truth, no law on his side, and absolutely no interest in doing anything that's better for the country, Even it's just like, who can I corrupt? I'm going to go and I'm going to get lawyers who are no business going in courts to just, create this facade of all these legal problems. There's going to be all this media and Twitter feeds and Twitter, promotion and around this fraud that doesn't exist. Try to corrupt everybody, refuse to leave, refuse to face reality, and corrupt everybody around me who is corruptible. So again, we're seeing if that visceral play isn't going to show you, I don't know what would, and it's not going to work. Everything that was supposed to work, even by his own plan, hasn't worked. So we have just, we're here now, and I'm talking about these hot issues, and I'm sorry if it bothers some people because they like Trump for what he represents and other kinds of things. And by the way, I'm disappointed. I wish he would have been better in many of these ways and not this. When he came, I hoped that it would be better, and it hasn't. And you just can't sugarcoat how policy-wise, and especially as the figurehead, how we've gotten so much in this world of lost about our common, even law and truth and fact is just, who knows? But we're going to get further away from that as we move forward. So, I see some comments here and some questions, but I think I'm just going to leave it there. And again, I know politics is a hard thing to talk about, and I know that, I'd probably be better to not talk about it, but I feel like this is the world we live in, and we can see astrology working in this way. And again, I'm showing what this is, but at heart, an astrology update. 1 second. And I'm talking about the astrology that we see, the things we have seen in the world that we've all shared, our common reference points. We just went through this big eclipse in Scorpio, which again, how much have you heard from astrologers the last few months? Secrets exposed. You'll see the secrets. You'll see. And again, if they're Trump supporters, so much of it has been, this is when it's going to the Supreme Court. That's it. It's going to be then. He's strong in eclipses. This eclipse, they're going to give it to him. None of it has played out. It hasn't. That's not what's happened. Instead of those big secrets exposed, it's secrets that I discussed. Where it's a shocking revelation of how corrupt and how we're in this place. It's shocking that in spite of what is lawful and true and real and measured, where we can be calm, there's just this paranoid, alternate reality that so many have bought into. And that's shocking. Incredibly shocking. Particularly, again, for me, last week, I think was shocking for any of us that pay attention to things like, it's not just the news, it's our life. Let's be really clear. If Trump and these people would have their way, we have a large group of elected officials who are duty-bound to uphold the law, who are basically and literally saying, let's overturn and steal the election based on no evidence. They know it was unconstitutional, and they signed on for it anyway. What if the Supreme Court would have said, okay, we're throwing out the votes of all these people, and Donald Trump is the winner? This is what they wanted to have happen, and that shouldn't be minimized. All of these people, that's what they wanted. What would that have done to our country? How unfair, not just unfair, you want to talk about civil war. I mean, people that are just dying for this, and it's still happening. They're still hoping that somehow Donald Trump can steal it with no proof, no evidence, nothing. Everything, it's done. And hopefully he can still do it. Do what? Roll tanks down the street? What's left? So it's shocking to see this. So from here, I think we're going to be moving into a place that's different. Again, it's my hope. It's a hopeful reading, but but the astrology does play that out, and so we'll leave it at that. And again, apologize for those who don't like the political commentary, but it is my right to say that, and I still have the right in this country to do it. And you're free to not like it and unsubscribe and all that kind of stuff if you want. If you yell at me and call me names and act like a fool, I'll probably delete your comment because I don't think it's fair or that it's the right thing to do. We can have disagreements, and if you want to disagree with me about the things I said, you're free to do it. You're not free to call me a bunch of names and just because I don't agree with you, act like that. Because I promise you, I'll let your comments stand. If you want to especially discuss any of the astrology or any of my interpretations of things, that's fine. I don't mind. I do mind when people say, oh, you're just and then they just dump all over me personally about it because they don't like my view. So anyway, we'll leave it at that. And you take care. Have a good one. Share this with others. And of course, sign up for the 2021 forecast. I think you'll be surprised at how much more hopeful it's going to be, especially with where we are right now. We're coming out of a dark time, and the things that have been exposed can be great places of healing, and we're the healers. You're the healers. I'm the healers. If we hold that space, if we hold that compassionate space, and rather than be fired up and angry about all of this stuff, which, again, I'm not angry about any of it. I'm certainly truthful, but I don't feel anger or hostility to anyone. I feel sad that it's this way. But again, it's up to us to all, stay loving toward each other, not, hate each other because we have different opinions and different views. And I'll do my best to do that. So you take care.